Welcome to the Creative Entrepreneurs Podcast, where it's all about turning your unique talents and perspectives into a viable business. And now, your host, Paris Hamilton.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Creative Entrepreneurs Podcast. This is episode 19, and I'm your host, Paris Hamilton. So in this episode, what we're going to talk about are why most people aren't as productive as they can be, and then 5 ways to improve your productivity level. So as a brief aside, if you've been on this journey, this novel writing journey with me from the beginning, then I'll go ahead and give you a brief update on where I am and what my next steps are. So at this point, the novel is about 77,000 words. The edits and comments from the developmental editor have been addressed, and now the manuscript's ready for release to a line editor. So they'll go line by line through the novel. After I get that back, I'll then edit and revise any sections that need it, and then I'll move into the process of finding a literary agent, which any authors out there would know that it's pretty difficult to find a good literary agent for your book. So I already have my query letter drafted, so that will be just a matter of kind of polishing up the letter and then tailoring it to the specific agents before sending it out. But being that finding a top agent is typically pretty difficult, I will expect to receive some no's back from these agents that I query. So with that in mind, I think I'm just going to turn this process into a bit of a game and see how many no's that I will get before actually receiving a yes or a representation offer from one of the agents. So to put this into context, I'll go ahead and give you some famous examples. So J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 different publishers before getting someone to publish Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which the Harry Potter brand now is worth billions of dollars. The author of the book called The Help, Catherine Stockett, was rejected by 60 literary agents before finding representation, which later spent 100 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. Even Dr. Seuss went through 27 rejections before being able to sell his first story. So all of that to say, finishing a novel is by far not the end of the road if you plan to go the route of traditional publishing, which is probably why a lot of authors choose to go with self-publishing these days. I've even gone that route with my latest book, The Missing Mindset, which you can find on Amazon. But there are pros and cons to each route, and it's important to know what those are before selecting one route versus another, which I won't go into the pros and cons today because this episode is all about productivity. So I'll save that for a future time, especially if someone should request to know about that. But there's a lot of free information out there on the web. If you just Google search what the pros and cons are, I'm sure you'll find something. But anyway, without further delay, I'll go ahead and jump into today's show topic. So why aren't people as productive as they could be, and how to overcome those reasons? So I'll start with my first reason, which the first reason that a lot of people are not so good with productivity is because they're not so good at setting clear and specific goals. Not just as it relates to business and entrepreneurship, but also in their everyday life. If we go through our own lives, not being able to set clear goals for the things that we want in our personal lives, then how can we expect to jump in and set a clear goal when it comes to a business? It just doesn't make sense because you've already created the habit of poor goal setting. But the good news is that you can start today and right now in this very moment with setting better goals. So there's a quote that goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's absolutely essential. That tells you that it's absolutely essential to have a plan if you want to get things done and feel productive. Without one, your subconscious mind won't be thinking of ways to achieve and solve problems and create the life you want and deserve. So let's go through creating SMART goals. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So the specific aspect, you want to identify a goal that is very clear to understand. For the measurable, you want to know how you will know if results change because of the actions specified in the goal. For attainable, you don't want to set goals that are too conservative, and also you don't want to set goals that are impossible to reach. For relevant, how does your goal align to your objectives? And time bound, you want to assign a time frame in which you will achieve the goal that you are setting. So I'll go ahead and give you some examples. I wanted to take 4 entrepreneur related examples that I found online in an article about SMART goals, which I posted the full article to the Facebook group if you're interested in reading it. But the goals are as follows. So example number 1, the broad goal is I want to start a business. A lot of people say that as their goal, I want to start a business, but it is not a SMART goal. So for the specific aspect, I will sell handmade cards through Etsy.com. For measurable, you can say, I will be ready to take my first Etsy order within 4 weeks, and I will aim to sell a minimum of 5 cards per week. That's measurable. That's definitely something that you can measure. Attainable, I will get set up on Etsy first, then I will build an inventory of 30 handmade cards to sell. Finally, I will promote my business and build customer relationships through word of mouth, referrals, and local networking. That is an attainable goal. Relevant, selling handmade cards will allow me to benefit financially from my favorite hobby. Time-based, my Etsy store will be up and running within 4 weeks, and I will have an inventory of 30 cards to sell within 6 weeks. So the SMART goal overall might look like this. Within a month, I am going to set up, get set up to sell handmade cards on Etsy, which will allow me to benefit financially from my favorite hobby. Within 6 weeks, I will have an inventory of 30 handmade cards to sell and aim to sell a minimum of 5 cards per week. Building customer relationships through word of mouth, referrals, and local networking. So with that first example, I hope that you can see the difference between I want to start a business and the SMART goal that I just mentioned to you all. It's way more specific. It's time-based, so you set a time limit for yourself. It's definitely relevant. It's attainable. It's not too far of a reach to do that goal. So we'll move into example number 2. The broad goal is I want to grow my business. So that's definitely a very broad goal. There's nothing specific about it. It's not time bound by any constraints. There's nothing to measure as far as that. So a specific aspect can be, I will acquire 3 new clients for my consulting business. A measurable aspect, I will measure my progress by how many clients I bring on while maintaining my current client base. The attainable portion, I will ask current clients for referrals, launch a social media marketing campaign, and network with local businesses. Relevant, adding additional clients to my business will allow me to grow my business and increase my revenue. Time-based, I will have 3 new clients within 2 months. So the broad goal was I want to grow my business. The SMART goal would sound something like this. I will acquire 3 new clients for my consulting business within 2 months by asking for referrals, launching a social media marketing campaign, and networking with local businesses. This will allow me to grow my business and increase my revenue. That is so much of a better goal to have in mind than just, I want to grow my business. So example number 3, the broad goal of, I want to write a business book. A lot of people out there say that they want to write a book, but then a year later they're still saying, I want to write a book, and nothing actually progresses on that goal. So a specific aspect to this goal could be, I will write a book on social media that is a minimum of 150 pages. If you want to specify how big those pages are, go for it. If you want 150 8.5 by 11 pages, go for it. If you want 150 6 by 9 inch book pages, go for it. I mean, get how specific you want to get. A measurable aspect, I will write 1 chapter per month or 3 to 5 pages per week. An attainable portion of the goal, I will work on the manuscript first, and once that is completed, I will begin to search for a publisher or explore self-publishing. The relevant portion would be, writing a book on social media will help me establish myself as an expert. Time-based, my manuscript will be completed and ready to be published in 10 months. So I hope that you see where I'm kind of going with this at the moment. So the broad goal was, I want to write a business book. So the SMART goal will sound something like, in order to establish myself as an expert, I will write a 150-page book on social media by writing 1 chapter per month or 3 to 5 pages per week. The book will be completed in 10 months, and then I will search for a publisher or explore self-publishing. Example number 4, and the last example goal that I want to share with you all before I move into the second reason that people aren't as productive as possible. Example number 4, the broad goal is, I want to become a well-known expert. So this is a very broad goal. If we want to make it more specific, we can say, I will become a well-known expert on the topic of small business accounting. A measurable aspect of the goal could be, I will be successful if I am asked to speak publicly on the topic at least once a month, receive interview requests every week, and write 1 article per month for a top industry publication. So those are definitely some key performance indicators, or something that you can measure on the way to your goal of becoming an expert on the topic of small business accounting. So attainable, I will accomplish this by acquiring the services of a PR or publicity firm and launching a publicity campaign. The relevant portion would be, establishing myself as a small business accounting expert will reinforce my 20 plus years of experience in the field and allow me to reach more small business owners who need accounting advice. The time-based aspect, I want to be considered a small business accounting expert in 2 years. So the broad goal was, I want to become a well-known expert. The SMART goal would be, I will acquire the services of a PR firm and launch a publicity campaign that will help establish me as a well-known expert in small business accounting who is asked to speak publicly on the topic at least once a month, receives interview requests every week, and writes 1 article per month for a top industry publication. This will reinforce my 20 plus years of experience in the field and allow me to reach more small business owners who need accounting advice. So with that, that kind of wraps up the first reason why people aren't more productive and how to overcome that productivity. So that was all about people mostly not being very good at setting smart goals and specific goals, and how to kind of break down a few examples and make them into SMART goals. So I hope that that portion helped somebody kind of realize the difference between broad goals and SMART goals, and maybe even how to create their own SMART goals based on what they want to do. So I'll go ahead and move into reason number 2 why people aren't as productive as possible and how to overcome that. And that is multitasking. Stop trying to multitask. Many people say that they're good at this, but I find it so hard to believe. For one, I have not seen any research to suggest that the brain can focus on more than one thing at a time. If you have seen research like this, then definitely send me a link to the research and I will definitely go over it. But this is not something you want to be proud of, saying that, oh, I'm really good at multitasking. If you really want to accomplish goals, focus on one at a time before moving on to the next one, because that's what you're doing anyway, really, when you are supposedly trying to multitask. So let's say you have two things going on at the same time. Maybe you're watching television and you're reading a book at the same time, but you're switching back and forth between the two, so you claim to be multitasking. Your brain literally focuses on whatever task you're working on in that moment, so it's not like you're doing two things at once. When you come back to the book, you will likely have to even reread over some of the lines that you have already read. So you're sacrificing your own time and comprehension by doing things this way. So finish one goal and move on to the next. What happens when you try to multitask is that you prolong how long it would actually take you to accomplish a goal. So if I wanted to do two things at the same time, I have to keep switching my brain on to do task number 1 and then switch it off of task number 1 and then on to task number 2. You have to refocus on the new task. And this refocusing might happen quickly enough that you don't even notice it. If you actually finish a goal, you can feel so much more accomplished in your day and even in your journey towards whatever goals you have set. So be effective in one task and then move on to the next instead of performing subpar on multiple things at the same time. The brain can only truly focus on one thing at a time. So that was point number 2, multitasking. Number 3, avoid FOMO. So that's FOMO. And that stands for the fear of missing out. So we as a society are always looking to distractions as if we are missing out on something. We check our phones every few minutes to see if someone has sent us a message or an email or did something on Facebook, or if something happened in the news, or if someone posted a new picture on Instagram. We find ways to distract ourselves from the present, and it becomes a habit that gets hard to break later down the road because we have essentially programmed it into ourselves. And this is likely a contributing factor to this attention deficit disorder type of diagnosis in people, or the random statistics on how long someone's attention span is. If you are going to operate at your maximum efficiency, you have to let go of this FOMO mentality and adopt a habit of focusing on the task at hand without welcoming distractions from things like your phone or the internet or news channels. Simply wait until you finish your task and then go check the news or your text messages. Exercise some restraint and discipline, because that is really what it comes down to. Discipline yourself to focus, and I can just about promise you that you will improve your productivity level. So FOMO was number 3. So number 4, we're going to go into a little meditation. So meditation can allow you to focus better, but it's often overlooked by a lot of us. Sometimes I even miss out on it from time to time as well, even though I do try to get it in when possible. So from a perspective of someone who has a lot of thoughts running through their mind at all times, I know that I can be easily distracted by a new thought when I'm supposed to be thinking about something else. When most people think of meditation, they may think sitting on a floor, Indian style, back erect, eyes closed for like 2 hours of the day. But most people don't have 2 hours to just sit around and focus on their breathing. But meditation is more so about focusing on where you are mentally in the present so that you can slow yourself down to focus on one thing at a time. So this really goes back to the multitasking aspect in some way. You don't have to be in the lotus position to meditate. Your lower abdominal breathing triggers parasympathetic nervous system response. So basically, your nervous system is a binary type of system. It can either be in fight or flight mode, which is your sympathetic nerve system, or it can be in relaxed mode, which is your parasympathetic nerve system, right? So from a nervous system perspective, your body cannot tell the difference between being stressed in a death-threatening situation and you stressing over an abnormally large cell phone bill or you getting mad at someone cutting you off in traffic. So the normal biochemical mechanisms within your own body are disrupted more often on a daily basis in today's society than ever before. And most people don't usually restore this balance to their body. So by using certain techniques of meditation, you can force your mind and body to work on healing, relaxing, building muscle, recharging, or whatever. These are things that you should be doing at some point of your day every day, but most of us are not, and then we wonder why the cortisol levels are causing us to store fat or even become sick. But if you're interested in reading more about meditation, I'd suggest two books that come to mind. One is called Urban Monk by Dr. Pedram Shojai, and another one is Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. So that's if you want to read more about some meditation. So with that, I'll go ahead and move into the final point or final reason that I think people can use, the final thing that I think people can use in order to improve their productivity level. And something that might be holding them back. So the fifth one is to invest in improving your reading speed. So this is a different one that many people don't talk about very much, but I feel is a very important topic to at least touch on. So reading speed is a skill that, and as we know about any skill, they can be acquired, right? So you are not born with it. It's something you practice until it becomes a habit of yours. If you learn to read faster and actually retain comprehension, you will accomplish so much more in the time that you have and almost instantly feel more interesting to others as well as yourself. So there's this fear or misconception that, oh, I don't have enough time in the day to do X, Y, Z, when in reality, that is something that you can change. For the most part, most of the time you can change it. So the average adult reading speed is somewhere between 200 and 300 words per minute. But there are also people who can read 500 and 600 or more words per minute. So how much better would your life be if you could double or even triple how fast you could read and understand material after you read for the first time? That could allow you to maybe read books on a lunch break or a couple of lunch breaks, or read one or multiple books over a weekend. I mean, I do a lot of reading in a scientific field, so it allows me to read difficult technical material faster and feel more accomplished. If you were a college student or a law student or a medical student or whatever, reading through your textbook material faster, it would have instantly made you feel like you have accomplished more, and you may have even felt slightly better about studying. Every field of work can be improved by you learning to read faster. So I would definitely recommend that you either go through a speed reading course, or maybe even find a book that guides you through learning the various speed reading techniques. You might be able to find one in a local Barnes and Noble, whatever your local bookstore or library is. You might be able to sit and read it for free in that store or library. But if you do this route, you have to put forth the effort and consistency that is required if you want to see results. This isn't something that you can just read the book and then automatically pick up on it. You have to practice. I can't stress enough the consistency portion of that, because you can't create a habit without being consistent with whatever task you're putting effort into. So I'll end that on that note. So just to briefly kind of summarize what we've been talking about in this episode, we've been talking about why most people aren't as productive as they could be and how they can possibly change that. So I went through those 5 different areas, which are setting clear and specific goals, why you should probably stop trying to multitask, avoiding the fear of missing out, incorporating a little bit of meditation, as well as possibly investing in some speed reading. With that, I'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. So I hope that somebody out there found this episode helpful, as always. And if you have anything additional you want to share with the community that maybe I have missed, or that you think would be helpful to add, head on over to the website, thecreativeentrepreneurs.com/podcast/session19, and leave a comment. So as always, I look forward to serving you in the next episode. Make sure you tune in and hit the subscribe button, whether you're listening on iTunes or YouTube. And if you're not on iTunes while listening to this, head over now or after you finish what you're doing in this moment and leave a 5-star rating to let iTunes and myself know that you're enjoying this show. Remember, build your dreams, or somebody else will hire you to build theirs.
Thanks for listening to the Creative Entrepreneurs Podcast. Join us next time for more great insights. And don't forget to subscribe to the email list to get the latest information and updates.